about to start like in about a minute. So, I mean, I'll kind of bail out here and say, like, we've got three really epic people here in the whole future of food space. You know a lot about the food industry, from Johan organizing massive conference. Got Javier, did I say that correctly? Javier is running an awesome startup in Foodtech, as is Aline. So I'll kind of hand over to you. Johan, you're moderating this one, so I'll bail out. Afterwards, don't forget, you're going to head over back to the metaverse, where I found Johan. He was having so much fun in there. Yeah, I'm not supposed to, right? So that's how good it is. But after the session, you can do a little quick Q&A in here, and then you can send everyone to that link at the top. It's UPPSTART.com/Q&A. And over to you guys. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you. Cool. Very good. So how's everyone? Welcome to Santa's grotto here in Stockholm, Sweden, from where I host this conversation. My name is Johan Jörgensen, and I'm the founder of Sweden Foodtech, where we help large and small companies understand the future of food, and then, of course, seize on the opportunities of that. And with me here in my virtual Uppsala, I have the wonderful entrepreneurs Aline and Javier, who I will leave to describe themselves. But I must say, Aline, I've known for years, and what a wonderful stuff you've been doing. And Javier, your colleague Pachi took me through a demonstration the other day, and
I know.
Bloody hell! I want to get all of that machinery. Can you just send it to me? And we will get into that, because both of you are working with the future of food, and what a magnificent future we have when it comes to food. But before we get into that, Aline, who are you?
So yes, I'm the founder of YOGUT, and my background is in bioengineering and microbiology, and I'm also a gut hacker. And besides my work with YOGUT and all the things gut health, I'm also very involved in empowering female entrepreneurship within Foodtech. Nowadays, I'm collaborating with different organizations, including the EC now recently launched the Women EU Tech, supporting them, the program. Also here in Scandinavia with the Founders Institute and so. And just shortly about YOGUT, for those of you that doesn't know about us. So we are making healthy food made easy by creating a new way to produce personalized functional foods. So we are combining fermentation technology, microbiome science, and personalized nutrition all together to create what we believe that will be the food of the future.
Lovely. And Javier, you have the tech of the future to provide Aline's technology.
Yeah, you met the CEO the other day, Pachi. Pachi is very charming, and he had plenty of experience, around 20 years experience on 3D printing. And at some point, the patent for 3D printing was going to get released, and then he thought, okay, this is going to be too many people on this kind of market. What about if we use the 3D printing or other technologies on food itself? So he started working, and then I came up later. So we ran this company from 2017, so it's been already a while. And as I said, our expertise was machinery, so robotics, mechatronics, and had very, very little experience on food. And through collaborating with other clusters, other companies, trying to do nutritious food for people with dysphagia, these kind of problems and such, then we realized that the biggest issue here is like, okay, there are a lot of alternative proteins, new ways of developing products out of plants, maybe insects, in the future lab-grown fermentation, algae, whatever it comes. But when you go to the supermarket, what you can find of this? There are hamburgers. You only see 20 types of hamburgers. I'm not going to feed my whole week out of hamburgers, even if they are all different. So there has to come someone with different technology, so we can manufacture new products to help consumers have a wider scope. And that's what we do. We do the machines and the formulations. So the machines work with these ingredients. We are trying plant-based ingredients. We want to try cell-based ingredients, culture cells, fermentation, and because we see that is the way to go on the future, on the coming future.
Now, for those of you who haven't met Cocuus yet, you guys printed on beer the other day. on a glass of beer and went into the printer and came out.
That was the starting. Yeah.
Yeah.
The starting of the company was technology for the chefs, for the caterings, so they could have the logo of their football team on an apple, or this kind of approach. We found out through that working that maybe there were some kids who didn't like to taste fruit, but if you put their favorite superhero engraved on the apple, then they like the food. So not only having things fancy so people take a picture for Instagram, but when we met these other people that we could help through these technologies because you eat by the eyes, by the mouth, and by all the senses. It's not just one taste that one sense that you use. So we started with those. Then it came up the foam printer. We used to print. We found there was a technology for printing a happy face on a cappuccino foam. And since we were in Spain, I said, no, we are going to print over the foam of the beer, and maybe use it as an advertisement area instead of having a billboard around a wall that nobody looks. If you have a little advertisement on your foam, on your beer, you are always going to look, to take a picture and to upload. But those was the starting of the company, and now we seek a higher goal, which is also help with sustainability. So if our machines can help these new ingredients and in the long run help the planet, then we are more happy with this new target.
Why I bring this up, because it might seem like a little cheesy to print something on beer and be excited about it. Well, of course, it's kind of fun to see it the first time, but it also points to the fact that what is food? Is food something you drink or eat, or does it contain other types of values like an advertising value? Can you hook into other sectors of life suddenly? And yes, you can. And of course, the funkiest technology I've seen so far from your hands at Cocuus is printing food at a super high throughput, printing food at 10 kilos a minute. And that's, or whatever it is right now, perhaps you're onto even bigger things, but we can scale 3D printing of food. And that's fun, because that's not something that is usually associated with 3D printing of food. You see it, we print a little something in the form of chocolate, a little fancy pattern that no chef would ever dream of wasting time on doing, and then you can do it. But now you can actually print food at scale. And that means you can combine things in new ways that you haven't been able to do before. It's super funky. And we'll get back to that a bit later on. But Aline, when you take a look, you say gut hacker. And if you said gut hacker a few years ago, you'd see for yourself someone stabbing someone in the stomach with a knife. That would be a good gut hacker. But now these days, it's more about understanding yourself and targeting food for you as an individual. Exactly. Are we soon there at the individual level when it comes to food?
No, I think we still have a long way. Perhaps not so long. We are getting there. We are moving forward in that. And biohacking, this movement is something that is becoming more and more mainstream, and with gut health becoming more understandable through the consumer markets and the food industry in general. That's the very interesting thing that is happening, especially because of the role that gut health has in our overall health. Because before, when we thought about gut health, we would think about Proviva, probiotics, and digestion. But now we understand that by the central role and how it influences our mental health, our performance, and lifestyle in general. So it's a very important area in personalization. So the more we understand about the role that our microbes, especially the ones in our gut, have in our, what kind of microbes we have in there, the better we'll be able to understand ourselves and how we can act on that on an individual level. But I still have a lot to do in that, in terms of which data to be using this personalization.
I think it's super valid, because when you start to realize, when you dig into the gut health, now you have to stop it because I'm such an amateur here, is that sometimes it's actually not about so when you eat something, what happens is you have an enzymatic reaction in the body where you start breaking down things, and in that process you produce vital biochemicals that you need in order to survive as a human being. So actually, it's not the beef itself that feeds you; it's the results of the breakdown of the beef that.
Yes, and the food that we are eating, besides before feeding ourselves, it feeds our microbes. Yeah. Because we have more microbes in our body, and when we talk about microbes, it's not only bacteria; it's a whole ecosystem with viruses, the good ones, fungi, and other microorganisms that we have in there, and they are helping us to retrieve those nutrients from foods and also to transform them to make them more bioavailable for us. So they have a key role in our health and in our interaction with foods. Therefore, one of the best ways to keep our ecosystem in balance is through nutrition, is by eating the right foods for ourselves and also for our microbes.
But this also means that we have individual needs, because we have individual
microbes. Yes. There is studies showing that.
Okay, so then suddenly everyone starts to understand this, realize this, because. And I think it's always, I thought it was a big insult when the authorities come and say that, no, you should eat this and that. It's a strict formula. Everyone should eat the same type of plate. It should be composed of this much vegetables, this much of proteins, and this much of carbohydrates. And then, everyone is good. And I always felt, why? And it actually turns out it's not true that everyone should eat the same thing, especially given your different type situations. Now I'm going to give you a leading question, Aline. Can we achieve this brave new world of individualized food without having 3D printing around?
I mean, 3D printing will be an enabler. I mean, there is a lot of enabling technologies coming there, and the 3D printing for sure will play a role in that, both in the mass production, but also in bring it to small scales. But I also believe that fermentation and perhaps combination of technologies will be the real enablers for the personalized nutrition. I mean, the biggest challenge that we have today is in the definition of the personalization strategy, because how can we know what you need and what Javier needs, what I need? So this understanding is what we are still working on, like defining which kind of data streams we need to use, and then in how to translate it in a very agile way. So, and of course, I believe that the decentralization of food production will be key in order to do that. But perhaps we will see very important developments within the next 5 to 10 years, I would say.
So this is not something that is in the space age, far distant from us. This will happen. I hope I will live long enough, at least.
It's already happening, but I mean, in terms of precision, we still have some work to do.
You still have some work to do. But Aline, you speak here about fermentation. I mean, like, there's a lot to be said about fermentation these days. Yeah. Can you give us a short walkthrough? What is this fermentation thing, really?
So fermentation is the biological process mediated by microorganisms that to transform organic compounds like those that are found in food. So we have like different types of fermentation. Like fermentation has been part of our food culture, like fermented foods, they have been part of our food culture for ages. Like, and you can do different things with that. For instance, with traditional fermentation, wine, yogurt, there is these foods that are part of our diet. But also there is these new other methodologies like precision fermentation, biomass fermentation, algal fermentation, there is solid state fermentation. There is so many different techniques that can be used to do different types of things, from ingredients to ready-made foods.
So really, it's not just about us eating fermented food, because when we eat food, we also ferment food in our bodies.
It's transform, yeah.
Or perhaps I'm no. So we're taking the help of microbes in order to change one
organic compounds, and transform foods and produce something like the biotransformation, and it can be applied in the food, but also to produce specific ingredients. And in pharma, it has been very used, like precision fermentation, for instance. So
vaccines are sometimes.
And also some compounds like antibiotics and so. But and we have like in production of proteins, but also for large expression of that. So you use like microbial cells for producing specific things in large amounts. But there is also fermentation processes like those using filamentous fungi that the microorganism becomes the biomass that can be used as a food ingredient today, which is quite trendy today. And with algae too, that you can use the algal biomass for extracting ingredients and so. So fermentation, people in general, they connect that with fermented foods, traditional fermented foods, but it's a whole world with different techniques and different microbes and different variables. And there's many different things that we can do and that we can develop.
No, but I think it's super interesting. I spoke with a Swedish company the other week. It's called Mycorrhiza.
Yes.
Ferment fungi stuff. And once you see what they do, it's like thousands upon thousands of tons that you can produce in this way. So and then of course what you do with the 3D printers, you stuff that into the 3D printer together with a bunch of spices and fats and whatever it is, and then you produce something excellent that we have never seen and eaten before. So are we unleashing now a world of innovation that we haven't seen before in the history of food?
History of food. Well, the thing is, I'm not sure if the audience is aware why is this new trend on dedicating so many resources and so many studies on developing these new techniques. So the thing is that the world population is increasing dramatically. We will be nearly 10,000 million people in the coming years. And by using the traditional ways, normally as countries develop, increase a lot their consumption of protein. So underdeveloped countries a few years ago are rising that consumption of protein. So if we continue with the traditional ways of livestock or fishing and such, there will be a lack of means of world resources. So that's the overall idea. What can we do? Either we eat less or we propose new ways of producing food. So that is underneath. So what we are trying is to bring as healthy possible, and also as appealing possible new products out of these new alternative proteins, whatever they are. If it's yellow pea protein, let me show a video with our results in between. So we could find a lot of hamburgers and this kind, or maybe little pieces, and we are trying to also bring seafood. Seafood is going to be the next trend because the oceans are quite polluted. The bigger the fish we get, they have different heavy metals. So it's always the next step is not just thinking on whole cuts of meat. These are shrimps. These are vegan oysters. So it's trying to reduce the use of animals in this process, but also, as Aline explained, try to implement the correct nutrition and in terms of calories, in terms of things that benefits us. So that is the overall idea. Not using animals and also having a healthier food in the long run.
Yeah, because fermented food as well, Aline, is healthier in so many aspects than normal food. Right?
I mean, some of them, yes. I mean, because fermented foods, they are great carriers for. Some of them are great carriers for beneficial microbes. Some of them probiotic-like. It's not correct to say that all traditionally fermented foods like yogurt are probiotics. There is some classifications and clarifications that need to be done in relation to that. Not all of them are created equal. But it's a natural process mediated by beneficial microorganisms. So in general, yes, they are good. But when you look into commercial fermented foods, like some that you can find in the supermarket, not all of them provide the same health benefit that you expect from fermented food. Some of them are pasteurized to increase the shelf life, and then they don't have the good microbes in there. Some of them have additives and such. So it's not fully correct to say that all fermented foods are healthy or healthier, but fermented foods can be healthier.
But you both talk about, because you both talk about the healthy aspects of the food, food going forward, and I think that we need to arrive at that. I mean, I think it's interesting to see the cost. When we think about the future of food, I think, to me, it's always been not just thinking about the plate itself, what's on it, but the effects of what's on the plate. And I don't know if you're all aware, if you're not, Google World Economic Forum and Harvard, was it Harvard School of Medicine that brought forward this curve a few years ago, pointing out the costs, the negative health costs of food, and you see it costs us something like $5 trillion US a year, mostly from a loss of productivity, and that's kind of a lot. 2/3 of everyone listening to this, and of everyone on the planet, will die prematurely due to chronic disease, mostly coming to you through the bad food that you're eating. So health aspects of food. And by the way, $5 trillion US is roughly the size of the global GDP, or the growth of the global GDP every year. So I mean, like, it's a massive question about health when we talk about the future of food. To me, I think health is probably one of the key aspects driving this development. Other questions that you see going forward will drive this. Javier, you mentioned increasing number of people on the planet.
Yeah, well, there are every day there is more people concerned about trying not to use animals in this whole food chain, or at least reduce as much as we can. So the number of vegans is still small compared to flexitarians or other people. Flexitarians are those who try to reduce meat to 1 or 2 days, not to have meat or fish every day. And the bigger concern towards that is how animals are treated, but also when you eat, you have usually a more heavy digestion when you have a huge piece of meat than if you have vegetables. So we are already aware of those. So if food could be the same tasty and also good for the health, the new generations are really embracing that slogan. Maybe older generations are more difficult to change, but the newcomers are really pushing toward both to healthier. That also the pandemic year also has helped us think our choices carefully, and no animal involved.
No, exactly, because you mentioned before, in 5 to 10 years, where will we be 5 to 10 years from now? How much will have changed?
I mean, hopefully, following up on your first question, we have this problem with the unhealthy population, like the overweight in the Western countries, but we still have a very large inequality, because there is millions of people that today doesn't have access to food. So we also need to increase the accessibility and affordability to healthy food and access of people to healthy food. And when we think about health, we also think about the health of our planet, like more sustainable ways to produce, also minimizing the waste, because now, today, a lot of the food that is produced doesn't serve the purpose of feeding us. So we need to find a more circular food system. So I believe that in 5 to 10 years, we will be in that direction. And another thing that will happen, because nowadays we are in this transitional period, moving towards a more plant-forward diet globally. But and there is a lot of these meat substitutes, and we are trying to recreate foods that exist. But I believe that the food of the future is a food that we don't know yet what it will be. It will be a food that will be composed by new ingredients that we are seeing a lot of interesting, nutritious ingredients coming up from algae, from insects, from microbes. This will be the base for the creation. So we are creating the enabling technologies to really develop what we'll be eating in the future. But I'm very excited about that. It's so many, because this is opening so many possibilities on flavors, and it looks very exciting, and it's exciting to be part of that as an entrepreneur. Being
I totally agree with you. It's kind of funny that I think we have roughly 1 million things that we can eat on this planet. And now we haven't even counted the stuff that we can add to this by fermentation.
And people is opening their minds for that because of the pressures that we are seeing from the society and from the planet. So nowadays, maybe before, if we would talk like, oh, we'll be eating insects or algae, most of the people would be like, ooh, no. But nowadays, people is open. So
and we're kind of excited because suddenly we realize that we have a sense that we haven't been using so much, which is the taste and experience of smell and taste, that can open a new door for us, become the media of the future in a sense. And of course, if you can put together, Javier, isn't that the case for 3D printing, that you suddenly can put things together that weren't possible before, like you can eat panda ears and together with Russian caviar and whatever have you, and you can ferment those into existence, and you can put them together in your 3D printer.
Yeah, well, back in the days when we tend to see space movies and such, we always saw like astronauts just having a little pill which was the necessity of ingredients or nutrition that they needed to survive, and we were afraid that might be the food of the future. That's not true. We will manufacture the same pieces of products that we are used to. So when we get insects, it's not going to be the insect from the farm to the mouth. It will be a powder of insect, and you will eat a croquette or something. So the kind of food is going to be the same. The food experience goes through the eye, and that is going to be quite the same always, I think. But what is going to change is that the way of producing is going to use less water. For example, water is a resource that is very scarce, and we have to use it wisely. And of course, we will be able to bring this better nutrition, this healthy into the process. So we will have better food, and also we will use less resources of the planet, and we'll be able to feed the whole planet, not like now. Yeah.
A more sustainable consumption also. We will eat only what we should be eating. And also in this picture, like personalization will come to help us, to guide us in this sustainable production and consumption of foods.
Yeah, and we'll only print as much as we need, right?
Yeah.
So there will be no waste.
It could be.
No, but I think this is what a lovely time to be alive, because everyone has been yapping about going back to the 1800s. So that the romantic picture of the past when everyone lived in the countryside and fed chickens with whatever they fed them with in the early morning hours. And I was like, no, God, I don't want to go there. But I want to get to the future as soon as I possibly can, because it seems to be so much better, tastier, healthier, more experience, whatever you like, because it's a super enticing, exciting future for food, is it not? And we're running out of time here, but I'd like you guys to make a prediction. How much of the food that we eat today, or food products, will still be there 10 years from now? And how much has been replaced by new things?
10 years.
10 years?
Maybe we will reach a half.
Half? Okay, so half will be gone in 10 years.
In some areas. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but
there's a follow-up to this one. So let's stick with half now, Javier.
Well, we always dream with these new factories where steaks or fish pieces come and there are no animal involved in the process. There is no waste, but it's taking a bit. I'm not sure if 10 years. Some of the regulations take time, so there is already nowadays a regulation for lab grown chicken in Singapore, And then the US is going along, and there are also eggs that are being produced without needing a chicken. So it's taking. Europe is going to be a bit later. So yeah, in 10 years, maybe half would be a good number, but it might take a bit longer.
Okay. And then I say, okay, because 10 years is a nothing in the world of Aline, 20 years from now, how much has changed?
Well, I already said 50, right? So I cannot keep the 50. Then 70.
70%. Javier, 20 years from now.
Well, it all matters of different areas. So people who is in an area that they are growing cows, they will always have access to that. But eventually in the supermarkets, there will be beyond 50% of products that come from these new methods of manufacturing.
Lovely. I think those predictions will have to be the ones that we end on. I think it's a very, very positive note. The future looks super bright. And I have been so fortunate to be able to be here with two of the leading providers of the future, Aline and Javier. Thanks to you both. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon again.
Thank you.
For all of you, all of us, let's head over to the Q&A part.
I think we should have a Q&A here first, right? 5 minutes.
Is it a 5 minutes Q&A here? Oh, before we head over to
and then we head to the meta space.
It's good that you were here, Aline, to keep track on this conversation. No, I'm any people out there have any good ideas or thoughts or messages or questions?
I don't know how
I do see people connecting in the chat here, so I think it's very encouraging. And
because they can add questions in the Q&A area here. So,
Okay, let's create a poll also.
Yeah, because there are no Q&As yet in the Q&A section, but the chat, I saw some people connecting at least. That's good. Let's create the poll. Much of food this is interesting will be replaced 10 years from now.
But the challenge with replacing is also the adoption. I mean, people need to change their behaviors. We need to develop technologies to create these novel foods, but there is some work to be done also in the adoption side.
Dairy is going to be really fast to achieve. That is already. Spain is not the greatest market for adopting new foods, but we can find like 20 different types of milk, or I'm not sure if it's allowed to call it milk. There is always these legal parties who try to put weird names so these things don't reach the masses. But dairy is already rising.
I mean, it has been a lot of development in dairy, but there is still a need for innovation in there both to improve the nutritional profiles of the dairy alternative products, but also to create these dairy derivated products like cheese and yogurts and so on. So I still see room for improvements within dairy, but for sure we are already on the way. But meat analogs are coming also.
No, it's super interesting. So far, I put up this little poll here. So how much of food, of course, means food, I can't spell, will be replaced 10 years from now? And so far, 100% of the votes have gone for more than 50%. Oh, now the poll changed to it's 50 right now. So 50% of the pollsters say 40% say more than 50% will have changed, and 60% are negatively inclined, and they say that less than 50%. I assume there are a couple of people from the old food system here currently voting. So now it's 50-50 again. Good. So we're evening it out. No, but I think to the point, there is a lot of resistance, of course, and that's always the case when you sit in a current system, upending things is a tricky business. Changing is always hard, and especially when we're changing the largest system on the planet. But I think the mass of entrepreneurs and the visionary leadership that these entrepreneurs provide, I think, is super encouraging, especially to the younger generation. And I think they won't eat the same shit as we do today. Yeah. They will eat far better, cheaper, healthier, more sustainable, etc. So I think it's a very, very positive future out there. Okay, so guys, your 5 minutes for asking questions is up, and I don't think I've seen any questions, which means that we will head over to the Q&A metaverse, where everyone can run around with an avatar, chit-chatting with each other, and I look forward to seeing you there, because I'm heading over there now.
Yes.
See you around.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.